Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajapacharya Ashtotra Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Such garbage. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, which is entitled, does everyone remember? The Creative Impetus. Chapter 1, the activities of Maharaj Priyavrata. We're on text 13. Bhavaya Nashaya Cha Karma Kartum Shokaya Mohaya Sada Payaya Sukaya Dukaya Cha Deha Yogam Avyakta Dishtam Janatanga Tate Bhavaya Nashaya Chakartam Kartum Shukaya Mohaya Sadabhayaya Yaya Sukaya Dukaya Chadeha Yogam Avyakta Dishtam Janatanga Datte Bhavaya Nishaya Shakarma Kartum Shokaya mohaya sadhabhayaya. Sukhaya dukhaya chadeha yogam. Avyakta dishtam janatanga datte. Bhavaya nashaya cha karma kartum. Shokaya mohaya sadhabhayaya. Sukhaya dukhaya chadeha yogam. Avyakta dishtam janatanga datte. Bhavaya, for birth. Nashaya, for death. Cha, also. Karma, activity. Kartum, to do. Shokaya, for bereavement. Mohaya, for happiness. Dukkaya, for distress. What is it? Oh, maybe I skipped something. All right, let's rewind here. Mohaya, for illusion. Sada, always. Bhayaya, for fear. Sukhaya, for happiness. Dukkaya, for distress. Cha, also. Deha yogam, connection with the material body. Avyakta, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dishtam, directed. Janata, the living entities. Anga, O Priyavrata. Datte, accept. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My dear Priyavrata, by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all living entities accept different types of bodies for birth and death, activity, lamentation, illusion, fear of future dangers, and happiness and distress. Purport. Every living entity who has come to this material world has come here for material enjoyment. But according to his own karma activities, he must accept a certain type of body given to him by material nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 3, Text 27, Prakrite Kriyamanani Gunai Karmani Sarvasha. Everything is being done by Prakriti, material nature, under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Modern scientists do not know why there are varieties of bodies in 8,400,000 forms. The fact is that all these bodies are ordained for the living entities by the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the living entities' desires. He gives the living entities freedom to act as they like, but on the other hand, they must accept a body according to the reactions of their activities. Thus, there are different types of bodies. Some living entities have short durations of life, where others live for fantastic durations. Every one of them, however, from Brahma down to the ant, acts according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is sitting in everyone's heart. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, text 15, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannavishto matatsmatir jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. It is not a fact, however, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives direction to certain living entities in one way and other living entities in another way. The truth is that every living entity has a certain desire, and the Supreme Lord gives him a chance to fulfill it. The best course, therefore, is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and act according to his desire. One who does so is liberated. Om Jnanati Vedandasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmaditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Pangam Langai Tegarim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Diditarinam Vansha Kapadurubhishta Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhanitananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I read the translation. My dear Priyavrata, by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all living entities accept different types of bodies. For birth and death, activity, lamentation, illusion, fear of future dangers, and happiness and distress. Yujanti hi sumedasaha, right? The Yagyar Sankirtana Prayurjanti hi sumedasaha. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangam Pangasta Parshdam Yagyar what is it? Sankirtana Prayur Yujanti hi sumedasaha. So, in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's stated that those who are sumedasaha, those who are intelligent, they'll partake in the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which means that, which is implied that those who are unintelligent won't take to it, or those whose intelligence has become corrupted or thrashed, damaged, they won't take to it. So, So yeah, to be intelligent means to partake in the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And yeah, nowadays, and I'm sure it's been going on for a long time, but this particular age is characterized by such things. But nowadays there's a lot of confusion. Like I was speaking with somebody last night here at the temple. She was saying how she's participating in a with a Buddhist group. She's Indian. And anyways, so she was saying how in this particular group, how, they have their acharyas, they have their teachers. And one of the main teachers, I'm forgetting his name right now, but one of the main teachers, he wrote so many books, right? And in one of those books, he wrote about the principle of nonviolence, which makes sense because he's a Buddhist, right? That's one of their main things, ahimsa, nonviolence. So it makes sense he was writing about it. So he wrote about it. So, and a main part of that ahimsa is to not eat animals. That's not. So she was explaining that to me, how this person was writing this in the book, and she's participating in this group. This Buddhist group, and how the modern teachers, or specifically you could say like the practitioners here in San Diego, where she's attending this place, they don't stress this point of not eating meat at all. And she asked them about it. She said, what's going on with this? Are we allowed to eat meat? Are we not allowed to eat meat? What's the deal here? And they said, well, yeah, it's your personal choice. You can or you cannot. It's up to you. It's really up to you. And then she went on to explain how even some people she was talking to there went so far as to say that, oh yeah, if somebody eats meat, you know, it kind of like, I don't know, it's really strange, but it kind of like enlightens that, you know, entity, you know, in other words, yeah, the consumed entity, you know, it somehow liberates them or enlightens them. Yeah, act of charity or whatever it's. It's a cycle of life and all these different things, and then she was saying, okay, you know, you guys are saying all this, but what about that teacher, what he wrote in the book, you know, that, you know, we're coming in his line, what about that? And they said, oh, well, that's old-fashioned. That's old-fashioned, and, you know, this is, you know, we're kind of up to date now, we're getting with the times. Our new teachers are saying this, which is completely different. And then so I was asking this person I was talking to, and she was saying, yeah, this just doesn't make any sense to me. I said, well, that's good it doesn't make any sense to you, because it doesn't make any sense. This is wrong. And then she said, well, maybe what I'll do is I'll talk with the main acharya at the time. They have a sensei, right? Sensei? What is it? No, not sensei, sensei. Yeah. Sensei? Senseless? Sensei? So maybe I'll talk with him and we'll see what he says. I said, yeah, you should speak with him. She said, oh, but he's really famous. I don't know if I could really get a hold of him. And then I asked her, well, what do you think he would say? She said, well, he'd probably say, you know, it's up to you. It's kind of like a, you know. So in other words, a lot of confusion. Oh, really? That's Srila Prabhu saying sensei is referring to martial arts. Well, this woman, she used that term. I don't know why, but I mean, anyways, she's not a sensei, a Buddhist monk, right? For whatever reason, she used that term. So yeah, these are like basic principles. You know, nonviolence it's a super basic principle. But still, people are not getting it, and it's amazing because it's absolutely amazing because that's the very purpose for which Buddha came. He came for that, to preach nonviolence, and just fast forward it however many years, and it's and they're completely off track. Yeah, completely lost it. So I was telling this person, I was saying that I think that you should just kind of move away from this group. It just doesn't, you know, I think you should just move away from it. Why? Because they're being hypocritical, and I think you should try to move into a group, because you need spiritual association. You should move into a group that you know, this group follows. In other words, they're not hypocritical. They follow what they should follow. And I was saying you should come to the Krishna Lounge. She said, "Okay, I'll do that. I'll come to the Krishna Lounge." But she was born as an Indian, so she kind of has this thing. Oh, she knows. You know, they have this idea. Oh, well, I kind of know about Hinduism or this and that. And I said, okay, well, just erase it in your mind. You know, you don't know anything, okay? I just said kind of erase it. You don't know anything, and you need to reassess what you thought you know, what you think you know. Just reassess it. And I told her you should read the Chant and Be Happy book. And I said that's a first step in you reassessing what you think you know about Krishna consciousness. I said it's like literally one step in the direction. Of course, just by reading that book and chanting Hare Krishna, one can become fully God realized. But I was trying to make a point to this person that you shouldn't think you know so much. Read this book from back cover to cover. That's one step in this direction of reassessing. So we'll see what happens. But the basic principle of material existence, how is material existence going on? It's going on because people are ignorant. That's how it goes on. If you wonder how the material world goes on, it's going on by ignorance. If you're wondering how our material life is going on, it's going on by ignorance alone. So, so therefore, the Bhagavatam is saying that those who are intelligent, they'll take to the Sankirtan movement, right? Why? Because it makes sense. To engage in the Sankirtan movement makes sense. It makes sense in the sense of just, even if you want to analyze it philosophically, right? Like this person was saying how she'd gone to this group, and just doesn't make sense, what these people are saying. And also she was telling me about the goal, which also doesn't make sense, right? It's kind of like, I was telling her, well, that's just word jugglery, right? Doesn't make any sense. And she was saying, oh, well, when you become enlightened, it'll make sense. I said, no, it's just word jugglery. Whether you're enlightened or not, doesn't make any sense. I was saying that it has to make sense, practical sense. So the Sankirtan movement means the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada's books, all the books that he translated, they make sense, right? There's a line of thought. There's a clear goal. There's a clear understanding of who we are, what life is about, what's the goal of life. There's a very clear understanding. And when we hear in the purport here that people who are accepting different bodies based on their desires under the order of Krishna, of course, because people want material life, Krishna facilitates that, but here it's lamentation, they're experiencing lamentation, illusion, fear of future dangers, happiness, distress, birth, death. So all of these different things that are imposed on people are born out of ignorance. So like for example, this person I was speaking to last night, the basis of the conversation is just she was coming from a platform of ignorance, like complete ignorance, practically speaking. And that's just one person. There's like thousands and millions and billions of confused people like that, who have no idea, practically speaking, of practically anything, actually. Just like Prabhupada was one time in Juhu, and somebody was, I think it was Hari Shari was massaging him, and then Hari Shari was glorifying Prabhupada and saying that Prabhupada, you're practically out of anyone in the whole world. No, Prabhupada said actually. Prabhupada said, how did this go? Does anyone remember how this went? Yeah, he's saying that practically, Srila Prabhupada, you're the only one in the whole world who knows anything. And then Prabhupada says, okay, this is how it goes. Hari Shari said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm just trying to work with the fan here and this guy banging, so it's, I'm sorry, I'm trying to, Srila Prabhupada said that this, or Hari Shari said that you, Srila Prabhupada, are in the whole entire world, you're the only one who practically, who knows something, right? Who's learned, who's in knowledge. In other words, nobody knows anything. And then Srila Prabhupada said, "Oh, are you saying that like to flatter me, or do you actually accept that as truth?" And Hari Shari said, "No, Srila Prabhupada, I accept that practically nobody knows anything, and you're the only person in the whole world who actually knows." And then Srila Prabhupada said something interesting. He said, "Yes, that is a fact." Prabhupada agreed with it. Now, that means that practically, of course this sounds really but people within the religious circles, people within political circles, people within all these different circles throughout the world are in ignorance. Now, of course, we could say they have partial knowledge, but a lot of the times partial knowledge is more dangerous, right? So, but practically speaking, the course in which they are going on is largely influenced by ignorance, and it doesn't end up in a very well. It doesn't end well. Or as Srila Prabhupada said, everyone in this world is on a suicidal course. And therefore the Krishna conscious movement was started, was designed, was crafted to save people from the suicidal course, right? Save people from Buddhism. Save people. Yeah, fake Buddhism. It's not even Buddhism. It's fake Buddhism. Chaitanya, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, says that we're crossing the ocean of material existence. In essence, he says this. Crossing the ocean of material existence, we have to be careful. Why? Because there's all of these sharks and all these different entities that may devour us. And he says there are all these sharks and so on in the form of different or mundane, materialistic philosophies or practices. Actually, he says that. And we see that here, like Srila Prabhupada says, every living entity who has come to this material world has come here for material enjoyment. So we see that practically so many of these different practices, they're difficult. They don't make sense, and so many things like that. But specifically, what happens is that these people, they sink down to the same thing, material enjoyment. What's that? Huh? No, they're doing it upstairs. So they sink down to material enjoyment. In other words, these people, it's these people. Now, of course, I'm talking about practically. I'm speaking about impersonalist and New Age, philosophies, and yeah, I mean, practically speaking, so many people who are, practicing Buddhism. Because there's a lack of taste, there's a lack of ecstasy, they have to sink down to the material platform, material enjoyment. And we see practically, this is a practical demonstration. I mean, of course, a lot of people would hate me saying all this, but this woman participating in this group here, this Buddhist group, I mean, we see practically, this is a practical demonstration of them sinking down to material enjoyment. I mean, for God's sake, it's supposed to be Buddhism. No meat eating, non-violence, that's what he came for. But this is a practical example of how, it doesn't matter, just eat it, doesn't, all this weird stuff, the animals and lion, all this strange stuff. Why? Because they're not gaining a taste in their practice, and therefore they have to sink down to material enjoyment. So what are we supposed to do about this? Well, what we're supposed to do is, that's why Srila Prabhupada came, right? Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavari Paschatya Dashatarine. So he came to free, right? Preach and free, deliver the Western world from what? Impersonalism and voidism. So we should try to help that. In other words, we should become learned, we should become qualified spiritually, we should become pure devotees, and in this way we could actually try to help people from this, be saved from this, actually. And Krishna will help. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanda Vishnu. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So Krishna will give us the knowledge we need. Means when we're speaking with people, he'll be able to inspire us to speak in certain ways, to help people. And we should depend on that. Of course, that means we have to be connected to Krishna. And therefore we have, why are we doing this morning program every day? That's not a waste of time. We're doing it every day because it helps us to become connected to Krishna. That's one reason we're doing it. And therefore, if we're connected with Krishna, we'll be able to, while trying to help others in Krishna consciousness, we'll be able to help them actually. So much of people, religious people of this world, they're not able to help people, or at least they're not able to help people to a particular degree based on their lack of connection with Krishna or God. They're lacking connection, and therefore they have a hard time helping people. And people, means people aren't inspired by them because they're not inspired themselves, or at least they're not inspired to a particular degree. So the more we're able to connect with Krishna, the more we'll be inspired, and the more we'll be able to help people come to Krishna. Just like book distribution, it's the more we're connected to Krishna, the more we'll be able to influence people to take books, actually. Like Davina Nirada Prabhu was here some time ago, which is very nice. He visited. Actually, it'd be nice if he visits more often. It was nice. He gave class and spoke with the devotees afterwards about book distribution. And so he was giving us a little talk out here about book distribution. And then he said that when you're out there distributing books, you try to give someone a book, and then people will look at the book, and then they'll look at you, and then they'll look at the book, and then they'll look at you. And then if it doesn't match up, he says, "No, I don't want it, that's all right." And they'll leave, And he was making the point that, which is another good point in relation to this, is that it's not necessarily that person's chance to get a book is gone, but they may get a book from somebody else down the line, another book distributor. So that's hopeful too. It's not like, oh, you completely ruined this person's. Yeah, another book distributor who's really enthusiastic, and which means practically was saying that people aren't stupid, and they could tell, they could sense. Okay, this person's emanating certain energy, right? Spiritual energy or ecstasy, Krishna consciousness, right? And therefore they'll be inclined to take. Or just practically speaking, if somebody, this book is about inner happiness, and we're not looking very happy, it's like, oh, well.
Not about outer happiness.
Yeah. If we're not looking very happy, it's like, then it's like, well, I don't want a book from you. I guess that's why it's tough, right? Book distributors might go out and, yeah, this is about inner happiness. I'm kind of not feeling very happy, but
You gotta smile.
yeah, you got to smile. It's an important thing actually to smile. I don't know. I mean, of course, some book distributors, whatever, they don't. Anyways, But I remember one time, Toto Gopinath and myself, we were at a mall, and I guess we're kind of like in a serious, kind of grave mood, which is okay. But anyways, this person came up to us and she said, "Oh, hey, how you guys doing?" And this and that. She said, "Hey, you guys could smile. It's all right to smile. I was like, "Oh yeah, thanks for the tip. Maybe we'll start smiling. Yeah, Super Soul, telling us to smile. But yeah, actually, because devotees are practicing Krishna consciousness, and they are happy. So if you just kind of smile at someone, I mean, sometimes you'd be surprised that people don't get a smile. People. So if you smile at someone, hey, kind of friendly, help. Anyways, so So yeah, if we're connected with Krishna, he'll give us the knowledge by which we could serve him more and more, preach on his, Now then Prabhupada brings up, it is not a fact, however, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives direction to certain living entities in one way and other living entities in another way. The truth is that every living entity has a certain desire, and the Supreme Lord gives him a chance to fulfill it. So Krishna, it's not that Krishna's, he's trying to inspire someone to do this and someone to do that, but it's based on the living entity's desire, which is an extremely important point, is that our desires need to be transformed, right? Na means no, like nadanam means no. Yeah. How do you say yes in Sanskrit? What is it? Na, yes, anyways. I'm thinking sa, maybe it's sa, anyways. Sadanam. So now our desires our desires may be, or people's desires are for sure. Sadanam, sa janam, sa sundarim, right? Anyways, you get the idea. That they're after wealth, women, followers, right? What's the whole social media platforms? Okay, how many followers can I get? That's one of the principles, right? So they're after all this. And there may be some lingering within us as well, but so we have to transform those desires. And of course, they don't want any devotional service, that's for sure. People in general, they don't want devotional service to Krishna. So we have to transform those desires too. We don't want any wealth for our own, mundane purposes, materialistic purposes. We don't want women. We don't want followers. We have to come to the point we just want devotional service, right? Causeless, unmotivated, pure devotional service, birth after birth. So that's the transformation process of Krishna consciousness, and that's based on desire. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is based on desire. So, and after all, it is desire which propels us in certain directions, right? That's all it is, like whatever the desires may be, it's all based on desires. Like for example, Alex and Glenn, right? They just were awarded saffron cloth. They're put on saffron. Now that's based on desire, right? They could have said, well, I don't know. I don't really like this idea, and I'm out of here. I'm not doing it. We've had plenty of people do that because their desire, they didn't have a desire to do it somehow or other. So whatever desire we have right now to serve Krishna, to serve Srila Prabhupada, to serve our spiritual master, we should fan that and become really blazing fire. And we should situate ourselves with people who will fan that, right, with devotees. And the purer the better, and they will fan that desire, right, until it becomes a very strong, powerful desire, which it pushes out all the other desires of the mind. But if we associate with maybe those who aren't so advanced, even in Krishna consciousness, or we associate, what to speak of associating it with materialists, it's like we're trying to, light a fire while, pouring water on it. Just it's very difficult, right? So therefore, to associate with more advanced devotees is very important, and to not associate with non-devotees is important, right? What is it? Atyahara priyasascha prajalpa niyamagraha janasangas shalalyam shadbir bhakti vinashati. It destroys bhakti, actually. Different things, but one of the things to associate with non-devotees. So, positively we associate with devotees. The more advanced, the better. And they will help us fan that spark. It becomes a blazing fire. And this is the great need of the world, actually. The need of the world is not anything else, actually. There's plenty of everything else. Like we mentioned, there's how many apps, millions of apps, actually, applications. Millions of them. There's plenty of this, plenty of that, plenty of everything. besides Krishna consciousness. And how is Krishna consciousness going to manifest in the world? Not by, it's going to manifest by devotees working hard. So, and that's based on desire. So that is the great need. And we need, thousands and millions of gurus, right? Diksha gurus, Shiksha gurus, Vartma Padarsha guru, we need millions of them, right? To help. So that's Yadadikataka Krishna Upadesh. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order is. He says, on my order, you become a guru and tell people about Krishna wherever you go, whoever you meet, and liberate the land. So that's our order as well. It means it's coming to us, but that's based on our development of desire, which we could go this way, we could go that way, we go so many different ways. But if we're very carefully fanning this desire and associating with devotees who carefully fan this desire, then we could help others as authentic, we want to say, bona fide gurus, which is needed. Just imagine a world without any gurus, right? Imagine a world without Jayadvaita Swami or Hridananda Goswami or Bhaktivedanta Swami, right? What would it be? It'd be like HELL, right? So, yeah, be like it was before Prabhupada. Just imagine it, without any gurus, without any inspiring persons who have, developed these pure desires and, are acting on these platforms. So that has to continue, and we could try to, kind of gradually. All right, does anybody have any questions? Or Dimitri, you have a question? Okay, yes. Daniel? Sriman Daniel?
I just have one question, was how do you help somebody from being arrogant to being intelligent?
Okay.
Or at least influencing them.
Well, you could have, the thing is, everybody has to learn certain lessons. Not everybody's going to learn lessons at the same speed, right? Or the same way. So we may be trying to help people overcome their arrogance, but that may be very difficult, and that may take a very long time. And we can't expect them to immediately, overcome it. And a lot of the times, practically, until somebody, the individual, consciously makes the choice that, okay, I'm going to surrender to Krishna, I'm going to surrender to the process of devotional service, to Bhakti Yoga, that's when the transformation happens. And the surrendering process is not just like, oh, well, I surrendered once at initiation like 15 years ago, or 10 years ago, or whatever, or 5 years ago, however long, or, I'm going to surrender on August 1st, and that's my surrender, But surrender is an everyday event. We have to surrender. We have a choice, right? What are we going to do today? So we have to surrender to Krishna, to the orders of Krishna. And by doing that, as it says here at the end of the purport, Prabhupada says, one who does so is liberated. So if we just keep on choosing the right, keep on making the right choices over and over and over and over again, eventually we'll get to the point where we're liberated. Means that we made the right choice so many times that the bad choice is just not an option anymore. It's just like, what am I going to do with that? It's like garbage, That doesn't bring any happiness. It's just suffering, and right. Or kama dinam katina katita palita dornideshas tesham jata maina krunatapa nopashanti utsuri jaitan atyatapati sampratam labdi buddhis twamayata sharanamabaya mamyuk shratmi dasye, right? Which is, maybe you could tell it's a long one.
In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy. Yet on I've gone, shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken.
Yeah. So we just keep on picking the right choice, making the right choice, and then eventually we just got to reject. We got to just reject all the other things, like these hellish desires that Srila Prabhu meant. Means these desires that have nothing to do with Krishna, we just reject them, right? So a person has to come to that platform. And until they come to that platform, they can't expect a huge change or transformation. And we can't expect in people a huge change or transformation. Or we can't expect in ourselves a huge change or transformation until we're able to somehow or other come to that point. And how do we come to that point? A very important aspect of coming to that point is tata duk sangam utsri ja, right? That the sadhus, the devotees, the saintly persons, through their words, they cut the knots, or they cut the material attachments that are within one's mind, right? With the sword of words, yeah, with their words. So, yeah, so that will happen if we open ourselves up to their words. They'll actually cut the material attachments. Just like to some degree, different degrees or larger degree, whatever. But we've had our material attachments cut by Prabhupada's words and the words of the devotees. Now we may be thinking, oh well, I'm not a Goswami yet. I'm not exactly this or that. I'm fallen in so many ways. Okay, we may be thinking that, and we may have some faults or whatever. But factually speaking, I mean, to go on for years or months, days, years, without feeling propelled to completely enter the material world and engage in all the activities practically everybody else is engaging in, that means to some degree those material attachments have been cut in the mind. And if there's still some lingering desires, those will also be cut in due course of time. And that means, liberated. So we just have to keep on, Anyways, it's kind of a long kind of answer / other thing, but I hope that kind of assisted. All right. Yes, Trivita Prabhu.
The story about the Buddhist lady you were talking to was very cogent, because it brought to mind, we just had Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disappearance day, and wonderful talk by Rajendrananda Prabhu describing how he saved the Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It had become corrupted, And there's that principle Prabhupada talks about, ardha kukati nyaya. Ardha means half, kukati is a chicken or a hen.
Yes.
And nyaya means the logic, half hen logic. And even without knowing the name of that and all that, we practice it all the time when we're neophytes and we're struggling to become devotees, maybe not living in the temple or living in the temple, but still. And that is that the tendency is to accept the parts you like of the process and to reject the parts you don't like.
Yeah.
And Prabhupada, this is adamant about this. This is how it works, how you can really be orthodox and progress nicely, is that you accept the whole program.
Yeah.
We all like the kirtan, we all love the feast, and that's fine, that's good. That's a great first step. But then there's all of these other processes that say, no, give up sex and drugs, forget that. And then you get this whole group that's, you have loungers who, but that's fine because they're coming in, and so certain of them get serious, and So that's what has happened to this Buddhist thing.
Yeah.
Is that for the sake of getting more followers, we don't emphasize that part so much, which happens to be like the essential part of the philosophy, ahimsa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But still, and people don't know anything, and so they get bewildered.
Yeah.
And in our own history, during that period after Lord Chaitanya for hundreds of years, it became, Bhagavatam, we love the Bhagavatam, chapters 10, 29 to 33. We're reading Bhagavatam. That's the rasa dance. And then, we don't, what do we need all of this philosophy in the third canto and the fifth canto? Forget it, let's chant and dance and, and have fun. Women, men together, it doesn't matter. And so it's always and a thing that happens individually also, where you're attracted to Krishna consciousness, but you still can't give this part up, you know. And unfortunately, that's an essential part of the prerequisite to living in the ashram. And so you stay kind of on the, you live for a while, but then, you know. And so it's always a tendency. And what's the antidote? The antidote is, you know, the strict following of the program and the study of the books. This verse talks about in strengthening your intelligence.
Yeah.
And that's with, you know, knowing, letting Krishna and Prabhupada speak to you through the books, discussing them, you know, being very strict about that. That's how you can keep your strength.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you get into this, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have to, like, pacify our minds and senses and everything by devotional service. That's the way to pacify, you know, because all these desires, material desires, they're never going to be satisfied, and we're never going to be happy engaging in them. So we just have to, like, engulf ourselves in devotional service, and that purifies, right, the mind, and becomes pacified, peaceful. Yeah, but anyway, some of my comments here, it definitely didn't sound like an interfaith convention. You know, my comments earlier in the class. But, I mean, it is a fact that in Krishna consciousness, we just don't agree with certain practices and systems of, like in personalism, it's not like we just don't agree with it. We just don't accept it for what it stands for, and also, yeah, and also Buddhism, we don't agree with it, and we don't accept their philosophical principles or conclusions. So yeah. Now, of course, anyways, I was mostly mentioning people are completely off from real Buddhism, but even real Buddhism we don't accept. Anyways, to end on a different note, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we'll end with this, Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was a time where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was in his travels, and I'm forgetting exactly where he was, but he met some Buddhists, right? Actually, Mahaprabhu met some Buddhists. It's there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then what happened is, somehow or other, I don't know, these Buddhists, they wanted to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu some untouchable food. That doesn't... Oh, okay. I see. So Vijay Prabhu is saying they've been defeated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, so by revenge, they wanted to feed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu some untouchable food, which I don't exactly know. It didn't mention what that was. Yeah, prasad, but whatever it was so, probably, yeah. So anyway, so what happened is a bird swooped down, right? Big bird, and got that plate, and then he went and soared it high in the sky. And then what happened is he was kind of soaring, and then he dropped the plate right on the guru's head, the Buddhist guru's head, bam, and then he fell on the ground. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there, the Buddhists were there, and then, knocked unconscious. The teacher, Buddhist teacher, main teacher. So then Mahaprabhu's there, and the devotees and the different Buddhists are there, and they're all the people. Oh, our gurus, they're unconscious. So then they say, "Oh, what do we do?" And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Oh, you chant Hare Krishna, right? In the ear, very loudly." And they woke up, and I guess they all got love of God, right? Here they must have got love of God with association with Mahaprabhu.
So Lord Chaitanya actually initiated the students by telling them to chant, and so they started chanting. And they initiated their so-called guru, and he became initiated in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
So in this way, they became bhaktas.
Yeah. So anyways. All right. Grantrad Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.